I'm here joined today by the man himself, the wonderful Pinella, and we've decided to do a little bit of an interview, and it's a little bit impromptu how we've decided to do this. We've just said let's do something live. So if you don't know me, my name's Walsh, and I do a lot of stuff travelling the world, working with people like Joe, helping them to build online businesses. And that's why we're kind of here today, because Joe, you've got an online business that you've been running for quite some time, but you've also got an offline business where you help people do some remarkable things. So Joe, just for the sake of everybody, and I know we're on this camera and these cameras, for the sake of everybody who doesn't know you, tell us a little tiny bit about what it is that you do. I want to get into your story in a little while, but just what is it exactly that you do?
I do an ancient Chinese healing art called Qigong and Tai Chi, and I learned medical Qigong. So I didn't learn it in a dojo or a martial arts studio, and I learned what the monks do to heal the people that they work on.
So it's all about healing, right?
Yes, it's all about healing.
But, and it's not about fighting?
No, not about fighting. It's about repairing the injuries in the body and getting to live a long, happy, healthy life with all the systems working optimally.
So everybody wants to live a longer, healthier life, right? So from your practice, and I guess you must have done some training with some monks at some point.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the training.
Well, the training was difficult, and it was really different than most physical training, because you think of physical training as sweating and moving, and the Qigong practice was very slow. It was very calming. It was very peaceful. It was really, really different than high energy activity. So you have this feeling that you have to work really hard to be getting benefit, but here you are working really easy and getting more benefit than you ever got from when you worked hard.
Well, so people talk about this no pain, no gain thing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's absolutely foolish. No pain, no gain is a mantra that was put out to get people to work to the point of pain. But only humans have been convinced to work to pain and think it's good. No animal would let you hurt it over and over again and keep coming back for more. So when the body is in pain, you're in the wrong mode for healing. You can't heal when you're in pain, because the body's in a nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight-flight system. And there's no healing when you're in fight-flight. There's only healing when you're in the relaxation response mode. And that's the parasympathetic meditation mode, the very easy, calm mode. So that's why this practice is a healing practice, because everything we do gravitates towards that parasympathetic mode. So
when you're talking about healing, then is this just for people who may need to heal, or is this something that you would use in to prevent things from happening? Like, if you get injured, you could heal faster. Where does this? Because people may be watching and they might not have heard this sort of talk before and not heard about the practices that you're explaining. Where does this fit in for people in general? So is this something you only do when you've been injured, or is this something?
This becomes a way of life.
Right.
It becomes a way of life because you feel good when you do it, and you don't feel as good when you don't do it. Now the thing with injuries are that, yes, this is the perfect practice for healing injuries, because that's the function that keeps you in a healing mode. But it's also in that preventative mode. If everything in your body is working 100% efficient, then systems aren't going to break down. I often talk about the human body like a car, because people understand their cars better than their body.
Yeah.
You take your car into the gas station, it works on gas, but you put diesel fuel in, you're never getting out of the gas station.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So the body is the same way. We can put things in and do things that heal the body. We can do things that wear out the body. For instance, really high energy activities that are wear and tear on the body, it's like you wear and tear on your car. It's the same thing. So we take care of the body gently, easily, and it heals, and it works better.
Well, that sounds like music to most people's ears, and I know a lot of my friends, a lot of people who I work with and who I've met over the years, they're really focused on going to the gym sort of 5 nights a week, and they get really excited when they can lift a certain amount of weight, or they can do something at a certain pace, and they want to always be striving for faster and harder and more strength, more of this stuff. What do you sort of say?
Well, that goes right back to that no pain, no gain mentality, and it's been ingrained in the brains of people in this country for about 30 or 40 years now. But we absolutely know that it's the wrong thing to do. We can see it because people don't heal from it. They have to do something else to heal when they get hurt doing it.
Yeah.
And common sense tells you that if your joint is made to hold 50 pounds and you pack 150 pounds on it, you're going to wear it out 3 times faster than if you just did something without weights. So we have to look at what your goal is. Okay, those people feel good. There's no question about it. They go to the gym, they feel good. You look at them, they're all built up with muscles and they look good, but they're not healthy. There's a difference between being physically fit and healthfully fit.
So this difference between physical fitness and healthy fitness, how would you sort of how would you describe or make that differentiation between the two? What are some of the key sort of fundamentals that underpin that, what you're saying?
Okay, so we can take a person who is really physically fit, who's been lifting weights and looks wonderful and beautiful. He can have diabetes. He can have arthritis. He can have inflammation. He can have all these different things going on in his body, but still look magnificent. You know, so looks and what you're doing has nothing to do with what's going on in the systems. How's his blood pressure? How's his blood chemistry? How's his oxygen uptake? All these things are indicators of health, but they're not even monitored, you know, for physical.
And a lot of this stuff is invisible, isn't it? It's not something that you can just look at and kind of, so you can't just look at your hands and realise that something may be wrong in yourself, but you can look at yourself and you can perhaps see that you're gaining muscle and, like you say, you're looking good.
Yeah.
So there are some important things I think we can take from just the few things that you've just mentioned now. Is, are you physically fit or are you healthfully fit? And that, I guess, is a question for folks to ask themselves, right? I was with a chap recently and he was talking about he needed to go for some surgery because he's been lifting weights and he's been doing it the wrong way for so long, and he said that this surgery is, you know, pretty much going to cost a big bunch of money to go and have this stuff done. So you must, in your practice, what you do and working with people, because you help people, right? You run classes and a bunch of stuff. You must come across this kind of injury.
Well, I had a baseball pitcher who was a professional ball player in his career. And of course, all pitchers have rotator cuff injuries. That's a standard injury for a pitcher. Yeah. Well, he had 2 or 3 surgeries prior to meeting me. Was scheduled for a surgery when he met me. A tennis player sent him to me. And when I started to work with him, I told him, I said, look, postpone your surgery. You already had 2. You know, that's what he had 2 for. Postpone it. Let's see if we can do some of the exercises, some of the protocol that we use in the medical Qigong world, and see if we can save you. And it took a long time because it's a process. His injury was a long, long time in the making, and the process to reverse it was slow. So when he came to me, he could not put his hand on top of his head. And about 6 months later, he was able to put his hand over his head. And about a year later, he was able to raise his arm again. And he did all of that without ever having the surgery.
That's amazing. And I know from speaking to you over the last couple of days that we've been working together that there are a lot more of those kinds of stories, right? And I think you could probably share these kinds of stories all day long with folks. What's one of the greatest transformations that you've helped somebody to undertake?
Well, I can give you a sports one or a health one, but let me give you a sports one because I think this is a pretty impressive one. I met a LPGA, ladies LPGA golfer whose career was basically over. She couldn't play anymore from an injury in her elbow and her thumb. And one of my students started to play really, really good golf. And so Christy got in touch with me and said, you know, what did you do? How did you make this lady play so much better golf? She's getting older. She shouldn't be getting better. She's getting better than she ever was. So I said, well, I have this program where we work on the fascia in the body, we work on the muscles, we bring the body back into balance, we work on all kinds of compensation patterns and injuries that may be in there, and we get you back to playing again. She said, well, do you think you can do something for me? I said, well, I never know, because I'm going to show you what to do, but if you don't do it, it's not going to change. So if you're if you're ready to start working, because we're going to work now. Well, we worked with Christy for, well, I think it was about a year and a half before she started to be able to play again.
Well, her career was finished though.
Her career was already finished. She was a teacher at that point. She was only teaching. She was not playing any more tournaments.
So in sort of 18 months' time?
Inside of 18 months' time, she went back and played 6 tournaments that first year, and she was in the money 3 different times.
And there was no referral to a surgeon?
Nothing, just me and her. We worked with her every morning for about an hour and a half, 3 days a week, the first year. Mm-hmm. And anyway, at that point in time, I thought she was doing fabulous. She won money 3 times. She's back in the tournament, on tour. So she said, my goal in life has always been to win the Augusta, Georgia Ladies LPGA, whatever it is. And I said, well, what do you think? She goes, I don't know. She goes, I know I'm much better, she said, but I don't know if we can get me there. I said, well, let's start working again. Okay, we got you at this point, we can get you there. So last August, I got an email from her with a picture in it, and she was standing there holding this big crystal trophy, and big smile on her face. That was her lifelong goal she achieved. She won the tournament. So I emailed her back and I said, you mean all that work we did and you won a blender? But it was a big crystal.
Blender or not, she's gone out and done the thing, right? So we're currently live on Facebook, and we've got 2 different mobile devices pointing at us, which is kind of ominous. I know that there's probably going to be comments and different things popping up on those. So if anybody's watching live at this point, we'll pick the phones up in a little while and we'll have a look at the comments and we'll try and answer any questions. So if you do have some questions for Joe, and maybe you're suffering some kind of pain, or you've had some injury, or you're just wondering a little bit more about just remind the folks the arts that you practice.
The arts are Qigong and Tai Chi Kung.
Which you may be interested in, you may have heard of these things, but it's not for fighting or doing kicking and putting your head through blocks of wood. It's more for...
The practice that I do is all about healing the body. So we don't do any fighting, we don't do any martial arts in the program that I do. So that can be done, it's a separate thing. Yeah. And the beauty of this practice is, if you take care of the body and make the body better before you do martial arts or before you do any of the other sports that can wear you out and hurt you, then your body is in a much, much better place to heal, number one, and to protect itself.
So just for the benefits of the folk at home, you're to me, you're very fit, you're very healthy. We've had the conversation that you're stronger than most folks, sort of younger than you. You've been doing this for a long time.
Over 50 years.
So for over 50 years you've been practicing this stuff, but as you've moved into sort of older age, as it were, how do you think this has benefited you in comparison to folks of a similar age who you've known as you've grown up? You must be able to see a difference between yourself and other folks.
Well, there's a major difference. Number one, I can just look at medically. I have a blood test and my blood work is perfect. I do a heart test and my heart thing is perfect. Everything is for someone 20 or 30 years old. The results the doctors keep coming in with for me when I do my physicals are, this can't be you, this has to be somebody else. The age and the way my body is completely different than someone 60 or 70 years old.
And all of this is without killing yourself in the gym?
Never. Nothing exerting in the gym.
So what would be, maybe we could stand up in a little while and we could show some of the folks something really simple that they could do. But if you've got any questions around, maybe you've injured yourself, or maybe you're thinking more about what Joe's talking about, drop them in the comments and we'll pick the phones up and we'll have a go at answering some of these these things in a little while, right?
Yeah.
And give us some likes if you like what we're saying. And of course, you can also add Joe on Facebook, or if you're watching on Joe's stream, you can add me on Facebook, depends which way you want to look at it. But the links to our profiles are tagged in, so you can find out more about each of us. Now, normally we would just do a short live stream, but I think it's worth expanding on this stuff a little bit more, and we want to answer some questions and stuff. But there's quite a poignant story that goes along with your life, right, Joe? Something that kind of, you sort of made it, you was, you know, living the life, you had a bunch of money, you just moved to Arizona, and then something really bad happened, which I think most people wouldn't be able to comprehend. But I've heard this story, and it's shocking, and it's something that I think, you know, if it's okay with you, that we could share with people. Yeah. Tell the folks what happened at just a short while after you'd moved into Arizona.
Well, when I moved to Arizona in 1990, it was the happiest day of my life. I was so happy to get out here in this beautiful country. And after about 9 months here, we were going to go back to New Jersey and visit New Jersey for the summer and see some relatives. And I had a trailer built to tow my Ferrari back to New Jersey. And when we got to Flagstaff, Arizona, the trailer hitch broke, and it smashed into the back of my Bronco and pushed me off a mountain. Well, I fell 25 feet down into a ravine. I fell 203 feet, I'm sorry. I fell 203 feet down into a ravine. And the truck rolled down the hill for another 30 or 40 feet, and I was thrown out of the truck. Fortunately, that day, there was a off-duty EMT worker in the truck behind me when we had the accident, and he watched the accident happen. He ran down the hill, and when he got to me, I was laying on my back looking up at the sky, and he asked me if I could move, and I told him I couldn't. And then he asked me if I could feel him touch my leg, and I couldn't. And then he touched my arm, and I couldn't. He turned around and he yelled up the mountain to another truck driver, "Call Flight for Life, this one's a quad." And I was laying there, and the last thing that I remember was a helicopter pulling up and a basket coming down. I was in the basket going up towards the bottom of the helicopter, and I went unconscious.
So that obviously is not something that anybody could probably even imagine unless they've been unfortunate enough to be in those circumstances. But what did he mean when he said this one's a quad? Well,
I had a broken neck and a broken back, and without any feeling, without any movement in the body, a quadriplegic is what he was saying that I was.
So that basically means that
paralyzed from the neck down.
You're paralysed. And when you made it to the hospital, presumably we're talking now, and you made it to the hospital, the movement didn't come back, did it? The feeling didn't come back?
No, as a matter of fact, it took them 18 hours to stabilize me in the hospital before they could even operate on me. My head was over 2 inches over my left shoulder. They had to put me in one of those gyroscope beds where they move the whole body around and strap me in. They had to put a halo in my head, screws in the front and the back with this big ring around my head. And they had to move my head slowly over 18 hours before they could get it back to the center of my body. They just couldn't take it and move it. I would have died instantly. But at 18 hours, all of a sudden, one of the doctors started to yell in an emergency that they were losing me, that they had to operate right then and there. And they took me into surgery. And when I came out of surgery, the doctor was there to tell me that, Joe, your accident was really severe. Your neck has had an extensive amount of damage. There's not any way for us to fix that, and you are going to be paralyzed from the neck down.
So they told you at that point that literally everything from the neck down it's over.
It's over. And I had this argument with the doctor at that point, because while I was in that emergency room for 18 hours, I had had this out-of-body experience. I had had this knowing where I was up in the corner of the room watching everything that happened and listening to everything that happened in the emergency room. But I had this knowing that no big deal, I had an accident, I broke my neck, they're going to fix me here, and I'm going to be okay. That's what I had this knowing up there in the emergency room. And when the doctor told me I was going to be paralyzed for life, I said, no, I had this this knowing, this feeling, this experience, and I know I'm going to be okay. And he said, Joe, you're not going to be okay. You're in denial. This is common, and it's not going to happen. Well, that was that. I spent 30 days up there in the hospital, very, very depressed, suicidal, but I couldn't kill myself. I couldn't move. And after 30 days, they told me I had several operations during that period. Then they said they were going to send me to physical therapy. And I was really excited about that. That was the first time I was excited, because having that knowing in the emergency room that I could be okay, well, I thought physical therapy would be the place where it would happen.
Sounds like a good idea, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the physical therapy, their plan was to help me learn how to be disabled, to help me help people help me around. In other words, so I wouldn't be a burden to the people who are helping me. And I said, no, I need you to teach me how to walk again. I need to learn how to eat again. I need to take care of myself. And they said, no, no, no. And they called my doctor, and of course they put me on more meds and more doctors and more counselors and psychiatrists, and I was in denial, and I wasn't accepting fate and all of this. It was a really difficult time.
So this was 26 years ago, right?
Yep, 26 years.
So 26 years later, how is this man who was deemed no longer able to function sat perfectly upright, and who's running a class for people, teaching them all of the arts that we've just discussed earlier? How is this?
Well, what happened is this. After 6 weeks of physical therapy, I got so depressed and so, there was no hope. There was no future. And I had this experience when I was a youngster in New York City. When I was 13 years old, I was accepted into a Buddhist temple in New York City. And that's where I had learned the medical Qigong. You know, the monks there did medical work on the Chinese people there. And that was the practice that I learned, medical Qigong.
And this is in New York?
Yeah, that was in New York City. And so when I quit physical therapy, what was I going to do? I had no choice in life. I had no help. So I called back to the temple, and I talked to the monks there and explained to them that I had this accident, I was paralyzed, and was there anything that could help me? Because I watched them help people all the time. That's where the Chinese people went for their medical attention in New York, to Chinatown, to the temple. So the message came back to me from the temple, no problem, do Qigong. And I called them back and I said, yes, there's a really big problem. I can't move. And the message came back again. Look, you have to trick your mind. You have to trick your body. You have to make believe that you're doing Qigong. Do it in your mind. If you can't move, do it in your mind. Your body will figure out a way to heal. So they gave me a roadmap. They gave me a plan. That was the first time I had something that I could follow and do. And what they told me I had to do was I had to go back into the womb where I was born. Well, a hot tub, make it 98.6, put a blindfold on, and have them lower you into the water. And imagine you're back in the womb again. And when you were growing as an infant in the womb, everything came, everything grew, everything that you needed to be a human being just automatically grew. And that's what you got to do. Go back there again in that womb and imagine you're healing. Imagine you're moving. Imagine you're walking. And imagine these exercises. And I did that for about 7 or 8 months. 6 hours a day. 3 hours in the morning, they would lower me in there. When I would look like a raisin, they would take me out. 3 hours in the afternoon, they'd plop me back in again for 3 hours. And this went on for months and months until finally one day, my arms started to move in the bubbly water, and they started to move, and then I started to try and control them. And
just when that moment came around, so you've been in this water 3 hours a day in the morning, 3 hours a day in the afternoon, with a blindfold on, in over 90-degree water, imagining and visualizing that you're back in the womb, and your arms, which you've been told would never move again, started to move. What was the feeling at that point? Was it surprise? Was you shocked?
Well, at first I thought that it was just my imagination. You know, I thought I was imagining it, but But I thought it was just because the water was bubbly. You know, a jacuzzi. I was in a jacuzzi all those times. And so the bubbles and everything. So I wasn't quite sure whether I was doing it or whether the bubbles were doing it at that point, because my arms had been moving, but I had no control. But then when I started to be able to go, okay, well, my hand to go to the right, and it really did, and then to the left, and it really did. That's when things really got interesting. Because then I called back to the temple again, and I told them, I said, things are happening. I'm starting to be able to move a little bit. And they said, okay, perfect. Now you have to switch to Tai Chi Kung. And Tai Chi Kung means to work with Tai Chi. That Tai Chi circle, the half and half circle, that's what that's called, Tai Chi. I know we call it the yin-yang circle, but it's really called Tai Chi, and it means balance. So there are a set of exercises that make balance between the right and left side of the body. So in Tai Chi, you learn how to do everything on the right, you learn how to do everything on the left. So they told me, say, okay, any moves that you want to make an exercise out of it. So they said, what's the first thing you want to do? I said, well, I want to eat. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to eat by myself. They said, okay. So I practiced learning how to pick up the food. And then I had to learn what I had to do to get the food from here to here, which for you was pretty easy.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I'm thinking right now is, you know, I can go and pick up
and get it to your mouth. But after I picked up the food, there were many times where the food went past me. I couldn't use a fork or a knife for 3 or 4 years because I was always afraid that I'd stab myself. Because I might be on my way to my face and hit my cheek, hit my eye, hit my head. So I had to make an exercise and learn. This is how I pick up the food. This is how I get the food here. This is what I have to do. This is how I have to move the shoulder. There's 20 moves to get food from the plate to your mouth. Yeah, and I had to break it down.
And I don't think, you know, a lot of folks, unless you've been unfortunate enough to be in this situation, folks take this
for granted.
For granted. And
nobody thinks about eating.
And this was snatched away in seconds.
Yeah.
It's powerful, and I know there's a lot more to the story, and I guess the recovery, you know, to spend all of that time just in water, you're talking about months.
Months.
To even retrain eating, months. How long did it take before you was back to, because to me you're back to normal, if there's such a thing as normal, right? But you're back to normal in the sense that you not only are you walking, moving.
I'm actually much more fit than I ever was in my life, because I've dedicated my life since this accident to exercising every day. But it took me 7 years. From the time in the hot tub until the time you see me today, that took 7 years. I worked, you know, first of all, when I started to get feeling back, it didn't come back easy. Like, okay, you think, oh, okay, I feel okay. My feeling came back as excruciating pain. When things would start, this whole side of my body was in agonizing pain. And I had to learn how to deal with the pain first before I could even learn how to move.
And did you have to go back against these ancient teachings
Absolutely.
to help with the pain now?
Yeah,
so
they taught me these breathing techniques to use. That's what I use now to work with people who have, you know, debilitating pain. There's ways to deal with these things. And so again, another ancient art, you know, from China, breathing techniques. And I use that to release the pain and learn to use the pain as a tool, you know, instead of as something that you want to just block out.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about sort of, you know, people would quickly turn to painkillers or, you know, get themselves booked in for surgery or whatever for, in comparison to what you've suffered, things that are not even close to this stuff. People would be turning to medications and turning to all these things, but from what I can gather speaking to you, the techniques, the movement, the breathing, I presume diet is important in all of this stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
But it seems like there is an alternative to what people would consider to be the way to go should they have some sort of ailment, or, you know, this stuff really seems more powerful than people might imagine.
And because people may not be aware of it or not even heard of it before, how would they know? But this is the medical system that was in place in China for 5,000 years. This is the medicine, the Qigong healing, the balancing the energy. The word dis-ease means something is uneasy in the body. And the traditional Chinese medicine is all about balancing the qi, balancing the energy. You know, you have an imbalance because something is hot, you have an imbalance because something is cold. So when you bring every single system into the body, into balance and in harmony, the body can heal, it can work better, it can function better, and life is just wonderful when everything is working perfectly.
Well, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It's like you said in the car. You know when your car is working properly. And you was taking the Ferrari because you used to have a career in the
I was in the car business.
You was in the car business,
Yeah,
and you
we
did
sold
that.
Ferraris.
And you did this successfully for many years, right?
Yeah, I was in that business for 16 years. Yeah.
That's amazing. But since the accident, since the recovery period, which was a long time, 7 years is a long time, right?
Yeah, sure is.
You kind of switched towards the helping others. Is this because this is kind of where you are now, right? Helping people with a range of different issues and problems. Tell us more about the work you've done sort of since then.
Well, after the accident and after I got better and everything, I realized that even though I had been very successful in business before in my life and I had a lot of money, that I couldn't buy my health.
Right.
And that made me look at life a lot differently. And I decided that there were a lot of people in the same situation that I was in. They were hopeless. They had no hope. They're depressed. They're suicidal. I was. And I said, well, you know, why was I saved? You know, there has to be more to life than what it is at this point. And I said, well, what can I do now to give back? You know, something in the universe gave me the second chance in life. Now, what do I do? Go back into the car business and make money again? What can I do with that? So I decided that I would start to teach what I learned and use to heal myself to as many people who were willing to listen. And it has been the most rewarding part of my life now because I get emails, I get phone calls, I get congratulations, and I get hugs and kisses and baked cookies and
Cookies are always good, right?
Yeah. You know, people are just so appreciative because when you have no hope, it's really hard to keep on going. And when they look at me, they say, well, if he could do it, I can do it.
And that gives hope.
And that gives people hope. And I say to them, you know, hope is wonderful, but I'm going to give you a roadmap too. I'm going to show you what to do.
Just like the guys at the temple.
That's what they did for me.
And I guess they didn't email you this stuff
No.
26 years ago or send it down a Facebook message or something. So,
no, not hardly.
then I guess there was a delay between.
Always. And then there was the translation because most of the monks that were in this temple didn't speak English.
So you trained with these guys though from an early age, right?
Yeah, I trained with them from 13 until I went off to college, and then every time I went back home to visit home, I would go back.
So this is you know, just sitting with Joe and listening to Joe and talking to I know lovely Debbie's behind the camera, she's running the show for us today. Debbie's Joe's wife. We're just having the conversations and listening. I've seen some of these testimonials. I've seen some of the results that you've had. I've watched videos of people literally saying how you've changed their life, and clearly this is something that's so rewarding, and it's something that literally has impacted so many people's lives. It's untrue. Obviously the arts and the things that you've learned and the things that you've practiced from a very early age are ingrained in you. But what happens if somebody has never even set foot into one of these realms? Maybe somebody is suffering some pain right now. You know, my buddy was saying the other day about he's been lifting weights and he's got to have some surgery and is in pain. Another guy was telling me about he had some pain in his neck, and you know, I know my mum gets a bad back if my mum's watching. Hi mum, is that the old thing? But people who may be suffering from some sort of pain and may just be interested more in what you're saying, what kind of advice would you give them on a simple, very, very basic level that could possibly help some people right now?
Well, what I'd say is that, you know, we would we would show you some very, very simple, easy moves that you can start to do, you know, a couple of times a day, and start to really change your life. The whole thing is that you have to do the movements in a particular way, so that they elicit this healing response in the body. And we have a DVD. We can, you know, get a
DVD to folks?
Yeah, we have a DVD of the exercises which we made specifically as a training one, so that people could be any place in the world and learn to do it. They don't actually have to sit with me to learn to do it. So we made the DVD a teaching and a doing DVD.
Well, what's something practical that people could, so if I just said move more, that's not the same, is it? Just moving?
Well, people might think if you say move more that they should go out and run around the house a couple of times, and that would be good. But that's not exactly what we mean when we say the right kind of movement. The right kind of movement has to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system in the body to create healing. So that means they have to be done very slow, they have to be done very gently, they have to be done with complete attention to what you're doing. You don't do this practice with headphones on, watching TV or doing something. You're paying attention to what's going on in your body so that you can feel, because everything is about how this makes you feel.
Yeah, we had a conversation about, you had an argument with, I think, 18, 20 doctors in a room, and about healing.
Yes.
What was the comment that you made? Because I think this is quite important.
Well, at a presentation for 18 doctors, I asked, you know, how many doctors in the room actually heal a broken bone? And of course, not one of them could answer that they did, because no one heals a broken bone. And so then I asked them, well, what do you do for a broken bone? Put a cast on it, and it'll heal the bone. And I said, well, if you don't put a cast on it, will it heal? Yes. And I said, well, what if the person doesn't want it to heal? Will it heal? Yes. So in other words, there is some kind of innate healing that goes on inside of us that we have no control over. That bone will heal whether we want it to, whether or not, whether the doctor takes care of it or not. So that means that healing is innate in us. All we have to do is learn how to wake it up and let it do
And
its
clearly this combination of what you're doing with your body, what you're doing in your own mind, maybe, you know, not feeding yourself junk food and stuff is probably assisting with that process as well, keeping the right fuel going in.
Yeah, the right fuel. That's like your car with the wrong gas.
Yeah, don't put the wrong fuel in the vehicle. So is it overly difficult for people to tap into this inbuilt, because it's already in you, so I guess it can't be too difficult to switch it on?
It's not difficult at all. All we have to do is wake it up. And that's what my roadmap will teach you, how to wake it up and let it get started.
So I guess we could probably share some stuff in the comments for folks who, you know, we could put a link to some kind of download or something. We can give people some stuff if they want to, and I know people can comment back. Should we take a look and see if we've had any comments on the phone and see the kind of things that people have said? Let's jump on the live stream. I'll have a look at mine first. So there's Joe, and what I'll do is I'll just quickly flip around the camera. So we're here. Let's have a look. So here we are. We've picked up the phone. Who's watching on the thing today? There's a big bunch of people who are watching. So Ian's been watching, Phil's been watching. Not many comments. So if you want to drop a comment, you feel free to drop a comment in the messages. Michael's watching, Christian's watching, Charlene's watching, Dave Hornick's watching, Michael Joseph, Darren. So we've had a big bunch of people watching, and I know we've gone on for a while. I don't know if too many people are on live at this moment, but if you are on live, feel free to drop us a comment in the comment box. And maybe nobody has got a question. Maybe everybody's living healthily and happily and pain free. Well, there's a few folks who are on, I do think. So if you do have some comments, feel free to drop them in the comment box. What we'll do is we'll put this phone down here so we can stay on the video. That's a different angle. And let's check out the other phone and see what's going on this one. So Carl's watching and Ricky's watching. I'll flip the camera around again. Oh, here we go. Let's see what's going on this one. There's a few comments, few people watching on this one. So we've been live on a couple of devices, and these live streams will be saved on our walls so people can see them. I'll put this one down here. So if we was to think about some of the basic movements that we can do with people, and some of the things that, you know, people could just start with? Is there anything you could do sitting down, or do we need to stand up so we finish off this thing?
We can do a breathing exercise right sitting down here.
So breathing, right? Breathing's got to be important, because if you don't breathe, you're kind of in trouble, right?
Well, Qigong means to work with Qi, work with energy, and breathing is the way that you tap into the energy in the human body.
So we can use breathing to tap in to the systems that you've been talking about, right?
Yes.
So what could you do very simply?
Okay, a very simple breathing technique that comes from Tibet is called mingling fire and water. And we figure the water energy in the body is low in our belly, and the fire energy in our body is high in the chest, the heart area. So if we take a deep breath and fill our belly, our lower belly, our Buddha belly, and then as we breathe out, squeeze in the belly, and then if we take a reverse breath and suck in the belly more, then the chest will raise. So what happens is you fill the water, and then you take a reverse breath, pull the belly in, and you bring the water up into the heart area, and it turns the water into steam. Okay, the way you put, you know, water on the stove to make steam. So if you take the water element in the body, bring it up into the fire element in the body, you turn your energy into steam. So you propel, make your energy high energy.
That sounds really interesting. Can you demonstrate that?
Yes, I can. So if I take a deep breath first, a Buddha belly, I'll let my belly go out. And then I'm going to use my stomach muscles to start to breathe out. And then I'm going to use my stomach muscles to pull in as I breathe in my next breath. And that'll make my chest expand, and then just relax and breathe out. So it's a deep breath, Buddha belly, the belly goes in. A reverse breath, the belly goes in more, the chest expands, and then relax. So if you put one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, you feel the belly go out, you feel the belly go in, you feel the belly go in more, you feel the chest go out, you feel the chest go in. You wind up with this little rhythm going on between the upper and lower part of the body. You do that for 2 or 3 minutes, boy, your energy level will be right up there. You'll feel ready to go.
And I know Carl's watching, and Carl talks about the importance of having energy throughout the day so you can function. Mm-hmm. So you can wake up in the morning and you can go to sleep at night with an abundance of energy throughout. And people put this down to diet. Some people put it down to drinking loads of coffee. Some people put it down to X, and some people put it down to Y. If you can control your breathing, from what I'm getting from yourself,
yes,
this is a super easy alternative to doing crazy stuff, drinking gallons of coffee. Where do you see that lie? Is it an important part of your daily routine?
Well, it's the major part. I start my day like that, I finish my day like that. But here's the deal. It's just like your phone. You have to put it in, charge it.
Yeah.
That breathing technique charges up your energy. So you want to have good energy all day. You start your day with a good breathing exercise like that, and you build your energy up.
That's amazing.
You go to sleep at night, it recharges. You get up in the morning, you bring your energy up. And that breathing exercise is very, very powerful. I said, it's an ancient Tibetan breathing technique.
And like you said, these things have been around for not just 10 minutes. It's not the latest buy this super easy quick fix thing. This has been around for thousands of years, right?
Yeah, 4,000 or 5,000 years. These have been the way they took care of their health.
And they're not doing it for fun. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, this is serious.
So there's a bunch of stuff that we can do. There's a bunch of stuff that we can give to the guys in the comments. We'll drop some stuff in the comments. If anybody's got any questions, anything that you want to ask, anything that you want to ask Joe, now is the time. Because, you know, I know there's quite a few people still watching. Give us some likes, give us some hearts if you've enjoyed this interview, this session with Joe. Joe, is there anything you'd like to finish up with? Anything that you'd like to give people? Maybe they need some encouragement to get started with this stuff. Maybe they need some hope if they are struggling with health or different things, because clearly the body is a fantastic machine, right? It's an awesome piece of...
the most exquisite machine on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is good health requires some work. You have to watch what you feed yourself. You have to do some exercises every day. You have to take care of yourself for you to be healthy. It's just not going to happen all by itself. I say this to you. if you have pain, if you have some kind of injury that hasn't worked, or medications that haven't worked, give this a try. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Again, this is 5,000-year-old history to this medicine, to this artwork. And if you've tried everything and nothing's worked, give it a shot. Because I hear this every day. The doctor said I can't do this. The doctor said I'll never do that. My physical therapy said this is good. And these people's lives have changed. I see anywhere from 200 to 300 people a week in my classes. I have private sessions with people with Parkinson's, people with MS, people recovering from stroke, people recovering from falls. Falls a major, major problem today. So this is the kind of stuff that'll change your life.
Yeah. Life-changing stuff, and clearly something that changed your life from the brink of
death.
Pretty much death, right? So very, very powerful stuff, and you're going to hear a lot more from Joe as we move over the coming weeks and indeed months. There's going to be a bunch of new stuff that Joe's putting together. It's part of the reason why we're working together. The internet is our vehicle and the means of getting these things out to you guys. So we will put some links and different things in the comments on both profiles. Feel free to add Joe, add me, and see what we do, see how we work online. Let's just take a little look, see if we've got any comments. Dan Clark says hello, so hi Dan, hope you're good. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Boston. Hey Charlene, Christian, Michael, Dave back in the UK, hope it's warm over there. There's a big bunch of people who've logged on. Marsha's online. We just spent some time with Marsha in Jamaica with Les Brown. Feth's been watching. Oh, there's a bunch of people logged on and a bunch of people who've taken part in this presentation this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you are in the world. The joys of modern technology, right? And we're so grateful that you could join us on these live streams. Let's see, on the other one, there's still some people watching as well on this one. We've got a bunch of phones. Barry says it's very inspiring. Thanks for that. Jeeta's been watching, Liam's been watching, Carl, like I say, Rick's been watching, Barry as well. Loads of people who've tuned in, and we hope that you can catch the replay online. So look out for more stuff coming from Joe. Look out for more stuff that's hopefully going to help. And thanks so much for taking part in this live stream today. We've recorded everything. We'll share the video. Exciting times, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the things we can look forward to in the future from yourself? I know we've got some stuff coming up in Italy next year, which is really exciting.
Yeah, we're thinking about a nice retreat over somewhere in Italy, in southern Italy, maybe next year in the fall.
That sounds.
Time of the year.
Well, I'd love to.
Be wine and qigong. And pasta.
Wine, pasta, and qigong. If you fancy some wine, some pasta, and some qigong, that's got to be the retreat for you. More before that, locally, sort of the things you're doing before you head off over to Italy. We've got a new webinar coming. We've got some training coming. Obviously, the DVD is being refreshed. There's a members area, bunch of cool stuff, right? And if you check the link in the comments, which will be up later on, there'll be some stuff to get you started off. Join Joe's mailing list. I recommend that you join his list, because at some point everybody's going to kind of feel some kind of pain, and they're going to need some kind of assistance with that pain. And from what I can gather from listening and spending some time with you, that the traditional pain relief that we're told about is not all that's out there and not all that's available.
No. This is a way to do it without medication, and to be in control of it yourself. You can control it. You really can.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure as always, and I look forward to hearing more from you soon. We'll switch off these live streams now. Say bye to everyone who's watching at home. We've recorded this as well. It's been amazing, and I look forward to seeing other comments. If you're watching it in the replay, just leave other comments below, and we will make sure that we get back to you guys. And yeah, it's been great. I'll see you on the next video. Let's finish these off. And